Hello guys, my name is Anna and I'm a Ukrainian, and I have decided I will vlog daily from my country Ukraine since the start of this awful war with Russia. And in my daily videos I try to update you on the important real-life situations in my country Ukraine, and of course I'm always glad to answer your questions and to clarify some facts from our history, our culture, our background, or whatever interests you. And yesterday, as we have marked 30,000 people in the community of my channel, I have asked you to put me questions below in the comments so that I can answer them today, and perhaps not only today, because I was so much inspired by the ideas and questions that you have left, and perhaps I have to practice it more often. I have always known that you are very special people, but with these questions, I realize how deeply you understand the situation and how many interesting, important, complicated facts need clarification. So once again, I'm very grateful for your questions. If I'm not answering them today, I will return back in my future vlogs, or very likely in some of the episodes of Soviet Myths Debunked, because you have given me so many interesting ideas. I have written down some of the questions on these pieces of paper, and now I will try to answer them randomly and perhaps maybe divide between a couple of vlogs. So, question number one: what is Putin himself afraid of? I think there are lots and lots of things that Putin is afraid of, and for me, he is one of the greatest cowards. What is important that this war in Ukraine, bravery of Ukrainian people, unity of our allies have opened his true face. And his true face is not just of a criminal, bloody murderer, but also of a coward. The way he reacted to the executions of various leaders like Gaddafi, Hussein, this is something that, according to many of his biographies, he is very much afraid of. And I don't understand, if he's so much afraid of these things, why on earth he decided to provoke so many wars and to provoke so many people around the world to stop him. Then he was afraid of COVID, and I think that the fact that he spent so much time hidden somewhere in the bunker, communicating just with himself, his evil spirits in his head, led to, once again, the start of this full-scale war with Ukraine, because people around him did not feel very motivated. And look at these long tables that he uses. Look at like this various deep fakes that they use, or special videos that they use to imitate his direct communication with people when he is not present in a room or elsewhere. This demonstrates that he has so many fears and he doesn't want to die, because perhaps he is still on his sacred Russian mission. But today, I'm sure he is afraid of Ukraine, and he is afraid of freedom, and he is afraid of people who are not afraid. And somehow in the country like Russia, fear is a part of their mentality. Once again, I think they are very, very, very traumatized by the centuries of their history. And for them, fear comes like an inborn quality. And when they come in closer contact with people that value their own freedom more than fear, they get in trouble. So there are lots of things that Putin is afraid of, and I think that fear is one of his main emotions, especially in these last years of his life. Hopefully last years of his life, or last months, last days. But anyway, he's ruled by fear, and he will be destroyed by his fear. That's what I think. The next question is how to motivate Russian people to change their system, and that was a very interesting comment with lots of ideas and the names of Gandhi and Martin Luther King, those great people that inspire great changes in their countries. This is a question that I often ask myself, and I don't have an answer to that question. I don't have an answer to another question that I often put, is what is wrong with Russia? Because like I have never been a racist or a chauvinist, and I understand that there are lots of beautiful people in every culture. And that's why when I think about millions of Russians who have actually so many beautiful territories that belong to them by law. Russia is the largest country in the world. They have beautiful nature. They have long history. Why not enjoy all of that, innovate, change, I don't know, attract investments? No, they want to destroy other countries, occupy other countries, even though they still have this, I hate this word, but they say it, shit houses or what, when you don't have a toilet in your house. So there's things to do, guys. And I don't know what is wrong with them. Definitely. I believe maybe it is a little bit romantic, but I do believe that many important things in the life of the world are often created and inspired by people or just one person. I believe it's possible. Like, I do understand there are important historical processes, philosophical trends, and so on, but still, we need a character. We need a person. For me, such person was Churchill, or I don't know, Julius Caesar. Maybe he's not perfect, but he's a character. And there are people who are characters and they can change the history tremendously. And if these are good characters, they can change the history for the better. I don't feel there is someone like that in Russia, and I haven't seen him for like decades. Many Westerners hope that Gorbachev can be a change, or maybe Yeltsin, but like in Russia, it is very difficult to change something, even if you are like, it seems like you're very close to that age. So now, in the comments, once again, when I talk about good Russians and I say that among like a very big country with millions of population and lots of like intellectuals, artists, singers, I don't know, directors, scientists, there are very few people who speak about the war in Ukraine and who speak about the mistakes of Putin, the crimes of Putin. You name Alla Pugacheva, who was a pop singer, and I even liked a couple of her songs when I was a child, but come on, like for a many million country, we have like 10 people. So it is going to take decades for someone clever, calm, and a person without hatred, a person without evil, a person without jealousy to appear and to become a leader in Russia. And I don't see it that way. So I do understand that for many years we will have a serious trouble with Russian population that is already traumatized, that will be traumatized by our victory. And it is like we have this Marshall's Plan for the rebuilding of Ukraine. We must have something similar for the reconstruction of Russia and Russian mentality. And I don't know, maybe some examples from the post-Nazi Germany can be useful, but we live in the era of internet, and actually you can get any information you want, and they don't want this information. So for me, it's a question I don't have an answer to, but I wanted to discuss it. Maybe you have some ideas. How to stop Russification after war in Ukraine. And well, this process is stopped. Maybe I'm an optimist, but it all seems very clear now. I have a separate video in among the episodes of Soviet Myths Debunked, and I invite you to watch it. It's about Russification. Was it a progress or just a country or a crime against cultural heritage and linguistic heritage, as so many countries occupied by Soviet Union? And Ukraine was heavily Russified. And today, like, so many people want to switch from Russian to Ukrainian, people who have never considered that. And I do know that like there are many Ukrainian soldiers who are heroes and who speak Russian, and it has never been a problem. People have never been prosecuted for that. Come on, those of you who have visited Kyiv, Kharkiv, Odessa, you have witnessed that many people, maybe even too many people, spoke Russian. And now hundreds and thousands of these people want to switch into Ukrainian because they don't want to speak the language of their enemy. And many, like in Ukraine, Putin wanted to denazify us, and we're not Nazis, but at the same time, this war made Ukrainian nation stronger, and more people who were like more neutral became more focused on their identity, and who want to dig deeper and to find their roots, to return back to the language of their grandparents, for example, something they've lost during the Soviet period and this severe Russification process. And many who are Russian speaking right now, they say we want our children to be Ukrainian speaking, and that's perhaps the most important thing. And at the same time, learning foreign languages is very much encouraged here. And I do believe that for a long period of time, Russian culture, like pop culture, series, music, was pretty popular here because it's money, it's a huge market, and also piracy and various social media that were shared with Russia today. All of that is closed. And of course, people don't want to listen or to visit the concerts of Russian singers or to watch Russian films describing Russian mentality. So this de-Russification process is very natural. Of course, it's tragic because it's caused by war, but it's very natural. And believe me, the state does not have to do like much, because people, like when someone comes to kill you and brings his Russian culture, and now this culture is not something you can think about like back in the centuries, then of course you don't want that culture. And I think it will be a very long process of healing. And at the same time, many people, not only in Ukraine but in other countries, realize that for Putin, Russian language, Russian culture marks the borders of his Russian world, Ruski Mir. So very often they come to save Russian people who don't want that. In Kharkiv, many people spoke Russian and they bombed Kharkiv like mad. And today, many of these people who were neutral to Russia are like more aggressive to Russia than, for example, me, because they have seen its true face and they were very quickly de-Russified by Putin, not by Ukrainians. How Russian mobilization will influence the war is the question that I have an answer in one of these vlogs. I think it will help us continue winning, because this mobilization is going to be very difficult for Putin. There will be lots of protests, not against, I'm like realistic and realist, and I realize this protest won't be against war, but against mobilization. But people that are mobilized, they are not professional military people. Many of them don't want to come to Ukraine. They don't have enough resources to train these people, to provide these people. And come on, they had so many professional soldiers in Ukraine for half a year, and they managed to occupy temporarily just one regional center, Kherson, that is very soon going to be back to Ukraine. So we are not afraid of that. We believe that this mobilization will cause lots of internal Russian problems, and internal Russian problems are always good for us. After Maidan, did Yanukovych's security forces escape with him? No. Some of them, very few, were arrested, those that were responsible for the shooting of Ukrainians on Maidan, and many of them stayed. And that was a very, like, Ukrainians are too tolerant. We are not an authoritarian country, and our courts are very corrupt and negotiable. So the problem is that many of these people left, and also many of pro-Russian politicians stayed. At the beginning of this war, they believed they can join Putin's forces and turn Ukraine into a Russian colony, but they failed. And perhaps the last question, not to take all of your attention today, what Ukrainian winters are like? Well, Ukrainian winters are cold, but not that cold as they often are depicted in the movies. We are not close to the North Pole, and but we do have snow. When I compare winters that were in my childhood, we had more snow. We had more very cold days than now. And the average temperature in winter will be something from +2 to maybe -5. When you have rare spells like of -15 or -20, these will be like 5-7 days during the winter. But we have snow, we have blizzards, and I love them when I'm at home. And in general, I hate the weather starting from November and finishing with the end of March or the middle of March. This is not my season totally. But I know why you are asking. It's not about the climate, it's about the dangers that this war brings. And one of them, of course, is it's difficult to fight, it's difficult to sleep outside. And even though we have professional Ukrainian armed forces, our volunteers are working like mad, buying various things that can help keep warmth. It is going to be difficult to spend this winter outside for so many soldiers and for people who live in the temporarily occupied cities or on the territories where the infrastructure is destroyed. Plus, we remember that Russia will use gas and other resources as one of the tools to manipulate the world, to try to influence and persuade, to force us sit at the table of negotiations, because they are losing and they will do anything they can to save the situation. But I'm sure we will be strong and we will go through this winter. Also, in my region, there are rumors like between my region and Belarus, we have very dense forests and marshes and lots of lakes, and it's difficult for heavy military vehicles to like ride or drive, and it was almost impossible for them during summer. So some people are afraid that when the ground freezes, it can be easier. But I don't see any such tendencies. I think they will use Belarus here just to threaten us and to keep some of our military forces in the west so they cannot join the rest. So these are just 5 or 6 questions that I have managed to answer, but I'm so grateful for the rest of them, and I will incorporate them in my future videos, and maybe also in the Soviet Myths Debunked series. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being my subscribers. If you like the video, share them, and of course subscribe to the channel. I believe that more people need to know about Ukraine, its history, its culture, and the war, as long as it continues until we win. Thank you for buying me coffees. Thank you for becoming my patrons. Slava Ukraini!